of, sorry. Okay, thank you, Rohit. So let me just repeat it again. So Orchestrator is a web-based application that manages everything, right from deploying your packages to give user-based access to license management, to managing your alerts, notifications, audits, your role-based security, your user-based security, and also helping you to basically kind of managing this orchestrator resources like assets, queues, and your credentials. So we'll come to that later in the session. So to start with, Orchestrator is just a web-based application, and UiPath Community Orchestrator is installed, or you can directly go to UiPath community.uipath.com or cloud.uipath.com to access all these things. Let me just open a live interface of UiPath Orchestrator for you, and you can also repeat these steps after me. So let me just open that. So once you open this cloud.uipath.com, it will first ask you to log into the website. So you can do a SSL login, or if you have created a separate user ID and password, you can log in with those accounts as well. So I've already logged in with Google. So I just click on continue with Google. Okay, choose an account. It is taking some time. So this is, you can say, a kind of a dashboard for this UiPath Orchestrator. And if I go to admin section, and you can also follow the steps, here you can also see the type of licenses that has been assigned to me, or you can see the tenants. So first of all, let's discuss about tenants. So in simple term, tenants is just a kind of a department in an organizations. So as a part of community license, you can only create one tenant at a time. So as you can see that there is add tenant button here, but this add tenant button is disabled. So I've got a question: can we run jobs through mobile app orchestrator? Yes, UiPath provides a mobile-based application as well, where you can use this credential-based model to run your job. Yes. So you can see here the number of services that it associated with a particular tenant. So I've got orchestrated services, action center, process launcher, integration services. So your services might be different based on the license that you are currently in at the moment. So if I go to this licenses, you can see that I have got 2 attended license, 2 automation developer license, and in the robot and services, if I click on that, so I've got 1 attended robot, 1 testing robot, and then I've got some data service unit for AI and other stuff for testing as well. So if I ask you what is the difference between an attended robot and unattended robot, so have you guys any idea about how these automations would work? Just drop in a yes. Okay, perfect. Yes. Right, for attended automation, right, where the human intervention is required, and whereas if you go ahead with unattended automation, this automation can be triggered. Triggered could be a time-based trigger or a queue-based trigger that we'll basically cover in the later section of this module. So first of all, let's discuss about the orchestrator capabilities. So as you can see here, with the help of orchestrator, you can provision your robots. That means both attended and attended. So what provisioning means, you can have a connection between a Windows machine and the orchestrator account. Along with that, you can also control and license distribution. So let's suppose if you have got 50 licenses that you need to actually separate those or segregate those licenses between different tenants or different folders, you can do that with the help of orchestrator only. Along with that, you can also run the jobs in unattended mode. So for unattended jobs, you have to rely on orchestrator. Whereas if you want to run any attended jobs, so we have got this UiPath assistant here, where you can actually run your job. Along with that, I've already mentioned that you can also store this automation storage and distribution things. These are orchestrator resources like assets, credential, queues, and you can also use orchestrator for monitoring as well as audit purpose. So let's see a diagram on how this entire unattended automation works inside Orchestrator. So if I go to next slide, as you can see here, so first your UiPath user will develop a process either using UiPath Studio or using UiPath Studio X. So you create a project. It could be of any type. It could be a library. It could be a normal process, RE from the process. Any type of process that you develop with by UiPath is called a UiPath process. So once you create that, you will see a button on the top that is called a publish button. So when you click on a publish button, that package, if you're connected to Orchestrator, that package will directly deploy to that Orchestrator area. Again, in Orchestrator, as I already mentioned before, you can actually create a tenant, and in the tenant, you can create separate folders for that. So let me just go back to Orchestrator again. If you see here, let me just click on Orchestrator once. So you can see here, my default tenant is Manoj Batra 007. And in that tenant, I have got 3 folders. One is my workspace, and these 2 folders, personal and shared, have been created by me. So similarly, you can also create other subfolders as well. Like a department could be your, if I talk about a banking domain company organization. So the tenant could be your loan department, and under loan department, you could have a folder dedicated to home loan, personal loan, credit cards. So you can also cover these sub departments into these folders. And why do we need that? Because most of the time what happens is you need to segregate a process at a sub-department level. So that is why you create these subfolders within Orchestrator. So tax people should be able to see the processes that are related to tax. Similarly, if we have got a folder for home loan, so the home loan user that have because Orchestrator is again based on user-based access. So only that particular user can access those folders. So as you can see here, we can see all the folders here because I'm admin here. But if you log in with some other user where your roles are restricted to a particular folder or particular tenant, then you would be able to see that folder or a tenant only. And within that tenant, you can see the process that is there within that folder only, or you can say within that subdomain only. So as you can see here, this personal folder has got one process whereas if I click on this shared one, I have got 2 processes. Similarly, in the personal folder, I don't have any queue item. You can see this 3rd item on the right. And if I go to shared folder, I can see I have got 1 queue item, and 1 user is there along with 1 machine. So this is, you can say, a kind of a segregation between different folders inside a parent folder or a tenant. Now coming back to the slides. So once a user publish a process, it will directly go to this packages option. So packages is a kind of an entity that is shared across the tenants. So if I go to this tenant, you can see the 6th option on the top breadcrumb menu, that is packages. So whatever you upload, it will go to this packages thing. And again, this thing can be customized, and you can also link this packages to your personal folders as well. Let's suppose this page has got only one process, this personal folder. So if I go to this processes, and okay, I don't have any access to click on an add process here. Let me go back to shared one again. So if I go to shared here again, and if I click on add process, this package source name will show me the list of processes. We'll go into the detail later in this session, but I'm just telling you how all these things work. So here you can actually create processes that can be run as a part of automations in unattended mode. So coming back to the slides, so this packages along with the folder create you can say a process. So publish packages paired with the folder, that becomes a process. After a package becomes a process, that means package plus a folder, that becomes a process. Now you can run that process into this by UiPath Orchestrator in unattended mode to all the available user means that are having unattended licenses. So if I go back to the licenses again, let me just go back to tenant and the tenant. You can see on the top we have got a license here, license tab here. If I click on that, you can see that the total number of license that I've got. So I've got 2 attended user, 1 production unattended, 2 automation developer, and 1 testing. And this basically this area will actually give you a usage as well. So for unattended, no license has been used, where my production unattended that is fully used. For automation developer, it is 50% utilized, and runtime is already 100% used. So that's how basically you can manage the licenses as well. So in order to connect to Orchestrator in unattended mode, you need to follow a certain steps. Like if I talk about this UiPath assistant, so with the help of this UiPath assistant, you can only run your attended processes. So there is a capability to run attended processes. Along with that, you can also basically add a kind of a reminder as well. But with this UiPath assistant, you will not be able to run any unattended jobs. That needs to be configured within Orchestrator, and trigger has to be enabled for that, whether it is a time-based trigger or a queue-based trigger. So to follow, or you can say to connect to UiPath using unattended license, I'm sure when you actually connect to UiPath Orchestrator, UiPath Orchestrator by default gives you 1 attended license. So with the help of this attended license, you can run your process in the UiPath assistant mode. But now I'm giving you a step where you can actually follow everything and convert your license to your from attended license to your unattended license. So for that, first you need to go to run and go to this UiPath assistant. Yes, we can see logs and assistant as well. And click on this preferences option. So once you click on the preferences option, another pop-up window would appear, and go to this orchestrator settings. And here you can see I'm already connected to a UiPath Orchestrator instance. So let me just do a disconnect first. And if I need to add a new machine here, first of all, I would go to this machine sections. Let me just add a machine here like ABCD, something like that. I'm assigning 1 license to this machine. And at the moment, I'm just keeping it a happy flow where all the type of processes and process compatibility will be supported. I've got 1 test license. I can also provide that 1 license to this ABCD machine as well. So once I click on provision, you will see this client ID and client secret would get generated. And client secret, you can only view it once, right? So once you actually move to a different page, you will not be able to this client secret. I've got a question here. Service request to CR will be processed here. UiPath will rely on the ticketing tool. Sorry, John, I did not get your question here. Could you please repeat? So if the status of UiPath assistant is licensed unavailable, then what will be that mean? So that means you are connected to UiPath and it is licensed version. So I'm going to show you that steps as well. So you need to again go back to this UiPath assistant, go to preferences, go to orchestrator settings. Instead of service URL, click on this client ID, select this orchestrator URL. So this orchestrator URL, you can copy it from here till, sorry, I can't see that because of the screen sharing, but you can copy that here. And once you copy it, okay, let me just go back to this again. So once you copy this, you need to copy client ID as well as client secret. Again, client secret can be copied only once. If you forgot to copy the client ID, then you need to regenerate this client secret again. So let me just click on connect. So once I click on connect, it will either show me a sign in button or a sign out button. So if you see a sign in button here, so you just need to click on this sign in button and do a whole sign in module again. So at the moment, as you can see, my orchestrator is connected and licensed. The next thing I'll go is to tenant, and under tenant, I go to this manage accesses. So under this manage accesses, your user has to have this allow to be automation user roles associated with it. So let me just go to this Manoj Batra 071 user and click on edit. So these all are default settings, and you just need, if this allow to be automation user is not there, so let's suppose it is not there, you just need to click here, and this drop down menu would appear, and you just need to select this allow to be a automation user. After that, click on next, enable all the settings. If unattended robot settings is disabled, you just need to create on this enabled button and enter your machine login credential. So it should be your machine name / your username, and save it to your and save the password and click on next. And if your machine setting is different from your orchestrator setting or your development machine, so you can actually set up everything here, whether you want to actually do a kind of a customized logging level or not, whether you want a kind of a dev logging in a separate file as well. Login to console generally works in a what do you call that, high density robot, so you can also do this settings here as well. Along with that, you can also do a kind of a resolution settings. So why this resolution settings is required? So let's suppose you developed something on your Windows 10 machine where the resolution is 1920 by 1385, and you deploy it on a production environment. And for some reason on that production environment, the resolution is bit different. So let's suppose it was 1300 something, by 1368 into 1080. So the resolution is not matching. And if your selector is relying on resolution, then you need to update this resolution settings here. So click on update here, and it will actually provision your user as well. The last step is that you need to do is in order to set up a robot is go to this, where's that, go to this folder option, where's that, go to this folder options. Under folders, you can see all the folders that have been basically assigned to you, or you have permission to view all these folders. So go to these folders. You can see a machine tab here as well. So click on this machine tab, and if your machine name is not there, just click on this manage machines in folder button on the right hand side. It's a blue button, and this will show you all the machines here. As you can see here, I just added this ABCD machine, but I actually did not set the properties like user ID and password. So I can actually add it, but this will not run any process on this ABCD machine. So I need to provide this user ID, password, and other things as well. So that's how you can actually convert one attended license into unattended license. Now coming back to the slides again. So that's how your all unattended scenario would work. And the next slide is again tenant versus folders. So tenants, I've already mentioned that tenant is a kind of a parent level thing where you manages everything at the parent level. So there are some entities that has been assigned to tenants, whereas orchestrator has given some permissions at folder level as well. So if you are working on some kind of a alert or monitoring based mechanism, or doing a kind of a background task, trying to create a library that can be shared across many folders, then you would use this tenant things. Along with that, license management, I've already shown you that this can already be done by this tenant option only. Along with that, machine setup, you can do that with tenant only. ML logs, if you are working on this machine learning things, then you can also manage that thing while using tenants only. Similarly, packages again can be shared similar to libraries. Along with that, roles is again user-based accesses where you can actually give tenant level access, and in the tenant level access, you can give user-based access. Along with that, there are some settings that you can change at tenant level as well. Let me just go back to tenant again. Okay, leave this page. At the very last, we have got settings here. So this settings will basically tell you what is your currently orchestrator is all about. So in general, you can set your time zone. There are some other settings as well: modern folder, classic folder, deployment. How do you want this deployment to be done? What is the API key? How you want your library or host to feed everything? If you want to configure any kind of a mail here, you can basically set up email thing here, robot security, scalability. If you are working on any kind of a non-working day logic, like you don't want to run any process on non-working day, be it a Saturday, Sunday, or any holiday, then you can actually create these non-working calendars here as well. If you are doing a kind of a cloud connection or cloud robot images, then just follow these steps and you will actually connect to these cloud service provider here as well. So these are all settings that you can do at tenant level. Now coming back to slides again, the other thing is user settings and webhooks. So webhooks is again a kind of a, you can say, a callback mechanism provided by UiPath. So most of the time what happens is when you run a process, you generally don't get a notification. You have to go to Orchestrator to see the status of your process, means whether the process is running or not. Because most of the time what happens is, if the process throws any error and you have not handled it properly, or at the time of error you are not actually notifying the business or the developer that a particular error has occurred, this process will not notify you, right? So to overcome those challenges, so you can use these webhooks where you need to define. If I go back to this webhooks again, so let me go to this webhooks. So you just need to create a webhook here, give a URL. So this URL means whenever any process gets completed. So there are certain triggers that UiPath provides, or you can say there are certain individual events that UiPath provide. So once these all things gets completed or started or created, anything, you will get a notification to this URL like http google.com, but it should be your what do you call that, proper REST-based API thing, where you get the data in the response format and you need to parse it based on the type of individual events that you get in that response body. So there are certain events in that you need to capture. So once this gets completed, you will be notified as well. Along with that, if you want yourself to be notified to a Teams channel or to a Slack or to any messaging based software, then you can also do that with the help of this webhooks. So you just need to paste it, the URL here. This URL will basically this UiPath orchestrator will call this URL, which in turn again calls your Slack APIs or your Microsoft Teams API or Skype APIs to give you this notifications. So that's how this works, this webhooks. Okay, now coming back to the slide again. So in terms of folder entities, so these are the things that I mentioned you can be managed at the tenant level. Now, the things that you can manage at the folder level is your asset, storage file. We have got this S3 integration using storage buckets as well. Environments you can also create depending on the type of orchestrator version you are using. Some of the version has got environments, but some of the version is now moved to a different folder package thing. Along with that, you can also control jobs. You can also see the logs that this job produced. Again, monitoring can also be done at this folder level. Processes, when you create a package, process out of a package, that can only be done at a folder level. Along with that, queues, triggers, folder inside a folder, subfolder that you can also manage with this in this folder entities. Along with that, these are other things like action assignments, action catalogs, actions. So these are related to this action center thing. Along with that, we have got this testing thing as well, where you can actually execute test scenarios, create test cases, see the result of your test execution, create a test schedule, see the transactions, see the queues, everything that you can see here on the right. You can do that with your folder entities. Now, I've already shown you how you can actually provision a robot. Now, let me just give you an example of how you can actually deploy a version to Orchestrator and how this attended and unattended things would work. So let me just open UiPath once. Okay. So UiPath has loaded now. Let me click on this process. So at the moment, I'm just focusing on creating a process only. So let me give it day 15 demo. So I'm just creating a blank process here. It will download all the dependencies and add these dependency to my folder. So this might take 10 or 15 seconds. I can see some message in the chat. Yes, if my queue is failed, can I handle with those things? Yes, I'll come to that part as well in the demo. So if I click on this open main workflow, let me just take one activity message box. And let me write hello user. So I just created a simple sequence and added a message box here. So let me just write once. So if I click on this, it will just give me a message, hello user. As you can see, hello user has appeared here. Now, if I click, or you can say deploy it on publish. So as you can see here, I am on shared folder now. So you can switch between folder as well. Again, that depends on the user access that you have got. So I'll stick with this shared one only. Yes, shared machine is connected, right? So let me just click on this publish. So this once I click on this publish, where is that publish? I think I accidentally clicked on this stop sharing. Just give me a second. I'm not able to see that button. Okay. So if I click on this publish, you can see here a pop-up window would appear where you can give your package name along with that, the version that you are going to deploy. So by default, it selects a default version, but you can change the version here as well. If you want some kind of a package, you can already you can do that with uploading this .ico file. So at the moment, I'm just keeping the default settings here and click on next. Now I'm directly publishing it to a orchestrated tenant-free process. The other option that I've got is a custom one or a personal one, but I'm uploading it on an orchestrated tenant process field. That means this this can be viewed by other user as well. If I click on custom, that means I need to provide a URL, be it a folder or a shared drive. I just need to provide it, and then I can basically save that nugget package to a local folder. So at the moment, again, I'll not change the settings here. So let me select this orchestrated tenant process feed. Click on next. Again, these are this HTTPS settings, so don't change anything for now. Okay, if I click on publish, this package will be published to Orchestrator. So as you can see here, project published successfully. The name of the process is day 15 demo. Version is 1.0.1. If I click here, you will not see this process. But again, now I need to go back to this UiPath Orchestrator again. Under tenant, I will find this package. As you can see here, this day 15 demo uploaded a few seconds ago. And if you want to see what is there in that process, what is written there in the process, just click on this explore package link on the right hand side of the row. So once you click on this, this will open up a new pop-up, and on the left side of the menu, this menu will show you all the list of version that you have deployed. So you can click on the specific version, then this will show you the files that is there in the project along with all the dependencies. So I only added one file, that is main.xaml, and I added a message box here. So once I click on this message box, this will show you that what was the text written here. So you can also do a kind of a little bit of debugging here as well. So this will show you a complete overview of what is written in your project. Along with that, you can also see these variables, arguments, and if your processes import some libraries from other things, you can also see that by clicking on this imports button. Okay, and along with that, you can see all the version that has been deployed. So this will basically give you a list of processes like 1.1. If I upload a 1.0.2, so you will see that version as well. So and change log, everything you can see inside this packages option. Again, I'm going back to this shared folder again. Click on processes. Now the next thing is that I need to do is click on this add process. So this window would appear where I need to select a package as name. So this package source name would contain the list of packages that is there in that tenant level package folder. So as you can see that there are 3 packages here. So let me just select this day 15 demo 1. The current package version is 1.0.1. Yes, entry point in main.xml. Click on next. There is no dependency, no requirement, project requirement, nothing is there. So click on next. In display name, if you don't write anything here, this will pick this day 15 demo as well. You can also change the description here, which was there in your JSON file. You can also change it here as well. Along with that, you can also change the priority for your job as well, whether you want to run it on a high priority or a normal one or a low priority. Along with that, there are some other checks as well where you want this process to automatically be started. Once I click on this create button, you want to enable some kind of a recording. Again, this recording button would depend on the license that your organization's license model your organization is having. So that completely depends on the license model and the security things. So let me just hit on create. Okay, now it will ask me to whether you want to start the process now or want to add a trigger. Okay, let me just click on the start now. So start now again will show me another window where the process name will be there along with that the job priority thing. This next drop down will show me the list of runtimes I've got. So at the moment, since I'm on community user mode, so I've got only one unattended license. So as you can see here, one runtime available and one is connected. So that means no other process is running at the moment. Along with that, you can run it on any user machine. At the moment, I have only configured it with one user only. So it will pick by default. Along with that, machine template is again only one. So let me just hit start. So once I click on start, this will go to this job sections. As you can see here, hello user is there. It has got executed. If I click on this details button, you can see that this process executed on this robot. This was the account name, machine name, what was the status of job, when it got started, when it got completed, everything. And if your process has got some kind of input values, you can also see that here as well. Along with that, we have got an option for recording. Again, that is again dependent on the license model. And if I click on this view logs button, you can see all the logs in here as well. So in this process, I haven't added any log here. If I add any log here, log to this process, so this would appear here as well. So let me just add a log as well. So let me just write log message. Okay, so we have got this 5 types of log. Again, that depends on your orchestrator settings as well, where what type of log you want to capture inside orchestrator. This will be generated inside your studio as well, but you can also control it via orchestrator. So let me just write info process has started, and the other log is process has ended. Info, let me add a delay here. I'm adding a delay of 2 seconds. Let me just click on publish once. Again, as you can see here, the package version has got changed. Here it is showing 1.0.1, whereas new version would be 1.0.2. So let me just directly hit on this publish button. As you can see here, this has been published now with all the details, the file that has got uploaded to Orchestrator. Okay, let me click on OK. And if I go back to Orchestrator again, automations, you can see this button here that updates are available. So what does that mean? That a new package has been deployed, and if you want, you can update the package. If I don't update the package and run it, it will basically execute this version 1.0.1. Similarly, if I go back to tenant again, tenant packages, this explore packages option, you can see that 1.0.1 is active at the moment, whereas in 1.0.2, I have changed this thing. I have added 2 log messages, added delay. And if I compare that with 1.1, this has got only 1 message box. So you can also see the differences here as well. Let me just close it and go back to the shared one again. So under processes, you can see that this can be updated. So if I click on this row 2 and use latest, so it will just ask for this confirmation. I click on confirm, and again if I go back to this packages again, you will see this you will see that the current active version is 1.0.2. And if I open the logs here, version logs here, you can see that 1.0.1 was updated 9 minutes ago, whereas 1.0.2 got updated 2 minutes ago. And who updated that? You can see all the user name as well, username, version name, everything you can see here. Now let me just run this process again. Day 15 demo. Okay, this is the process. Again, I'll not change any settings here. Start. Hello user. Process is completed. So the process took 9 seconds. So some of the time got gone in your execution status. So if I click on this view logs button, you will see that the process started. It wait for 2 seconds and then show this message box. That's how you can see logs here as well. Along with that, if I go to the shared folder and you want to see your current status of your processes, how many are running. So it's a kind of a dashboard. So how many processes are running, pending, is in stopping state or has stopped, or is in terminating state, or you have suspended a job or resumed a job. So resumed a job means it's a long running workflow. So all the status you can see here. Similarly, you can see all the status here as well. So at the moment 6 is successful and 1 is faulted. So let me just try to make this process faulted again. So if I go back to Orchestrator, instead of process ended, let me just throw one error. So let me just write new application exception and unhandled error has occurred. Again, I'm publishing it, same steps. Go to packages, process, update the package, confirm. If I run it now, go to start. I'm just going back to home again. So you can see one process running at the moment. Okay, clicked OK. You can see this message on the top that this process has failed. Faulted got 2, earlier it was only 1. In this job history section, you can see that in this UiPath Assistant as well. So you can track everything with this UiPath Assistant and Orchestrator. Along with that, you can also create webhooks as well. So everything can be managed and tracked via UiPath Orchestrator. So you can see everything here. So this process got faulted. If I go back to this view logs again, I can see one error log as well. That was through an unhindered error has occurred. So it did not execute this last step. Before that, it got errored out. So that's how this unattended things would work. Similarly, if you want to create it, if you want to run it using UiPath Assistant as well, you can run it from UiPath Assistant. So the process started, hello user. Now it will throw the exception. You can see that failed process again, and unhandled error has occurred. Similarly, you will get the same notification on Orchestrator as well. Let me go back to automations again. Jobs. You can see I ran this job using attended mode. So this is the difference between attended and unattended. Unattended, you can run it. At the moment, I'm again clicking it via Orchestrator only. I'll tell you how you can actually schedule these jobs. So at the moment, you can see here, this was the process name, host name, username, what was the job type, what was the runtime of that user, state of that process, what was the priority, and other things as well. But focus on these two things, the job type and the runtime. So that's how you get to know about this unattended and unattended one. Okay, moving on. Next is your robot provisioning. I've already shown you the demo. Now the next thing is working with orchestrator resources. So I would say this is the most important topic for orchestrator. So we have got, I would say, 2 orchestrator resources that we generally use in almost every automations. One is your asset and second one is your queues. Rohit, have you got any questions in chat? So maybe I can take that before explaining about this orchestrator resources.
I think you can start. If you can just give me a minute. I want to share something else with the team.
Okay, no problem, Rohit. We can take this question at the end of this session. That is fine.
Yeah, just a minute. So just for all the participants, I am sharing the attendance link of today over here. It shouldn't take you more than a minute to fill. Please focus on the session. This link will be open till 7:45. So please make sure that you fill in this. All it asks is the full name, your email ID, and your LinkedIn profile. That's it. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Continue, Manoj.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, Rohit. So let me just go back to the slides again. So as I've already mentioned that the 2 most important resources of UiPath Orchestrator are assets and queues. So first, let's talk about assets. So assets are nothing. These are just this shared variables, or you can say that global variables that can be shared across different automations that you create within a folder or a subfolder. And the purpose of these assets is again similar to variable, where you can store the data and use it for a later reference, right? And UiPath provides 4 types of assets. One is your text type, where you can actually put any string value there. The other one is your Boolean, where you can set the values true or false. Third is integer, and fourth is credential, where you can actually set the values in user ID and password format. So let me just go back to Orchestrator again. Okay, under Orchestrator on the top menu. So again, I'm at tenant level. If I go to this shared folder again, I can see this assets here. So at the moment, there is no asset, right? So let me just create one asset. So if I click on this add new asset, this window would appear where I need to type in this asset name. Okay, I would write name and asset value. Sorry, this type one first. First, let's discuss about this type one. So under type, we have got four options: text, bool, integer, and credentials. So if I select text, I need to enter a text here. Similarly for bool, I need to set true or false. Integer, same integer text box would appear. But if I click on credentials, two text box would appear. One is your username and second one is password. This passwords get stored in your secure string format, right? So .NET has a property, or you can say a class called secure string, where you can secure a password in that. So if I create just simple asset text one, so name, okay, let me just write it Manoj. And along with that, if I click on this create button, this will create a global asset for me. But if I want to create an asset machine wise, or say a user wise, because machine can have multiple user. So if I want to create a robot user wise, I can also do that. Sorry, asset user wise. So in that, you just need to click on this add robot asset value, search for the user, search for the machine name, and provide the value. So when this automation will run on this particular user machine, let's say it will pick Ashish as your uh, value for this asset name. So it's a key value pair, you can say that. So if I click on add, it will take this setting for this user only, and for other user, the global settings would apply. Similarly, inside UiPath Studio, you can also create assets as well as get the assets value from Orchestrator. So we have got these four activities. Let me go back to Orchestrator and delete everything here except the start and end. And if I search asset here, so I've got this four types of assets. One is get asset, set credential, and get credential. So let me just pick this get asset once. And at the moment, I'm not going ahead with this. Manoj, okay, create. So as you can see here, this asset has been created. Now, I just need to type in the name of the asset, which was name here. And in the asset value, I need to create a variable which can actually hold this variable value. If I do this control K, name value. Perfect. So it has created a variable for me. Let me just take variable name, take it. Okay, perfect. Now I need to write this into a log. Okay, log message info asset value asset value retrieved, and plus what was the name value. So let me just run it from UiPath Studio only. So let me just do okay, let me just debug the file. So as you can see here in this output, the asset value has retrieved to Manoj. Similarly, if you want to change the asset value, you can also do that using this set asset. So at the moment, I'm not getting anything. Asset name was, I guess, name, and value is well. Okay. So at the moment, you can see here the value is Manoj. Step into, okay, this would fail now. Step into. Now, if I do a refresh here on Orchestrator, you can see that the value has been changed. So you can change global variable as well using this Orchestrator. Similarly, you can also get credential, use get credential as well as set credential as well. So get credential, credential name, again, username and password will be shown. Similarly, for set credential, you need to give this secure password as well, right? So you can try it. Okay. Next is, I've already shown you this asset one. Next is queues. Again, this is the most important topic. I think in the last session when uh, Lakshman was explaining you about how RE framework works. So he also mentioned about this queues thing as well, where you can create a dispatcher and performer as well to process your jobs. So similarly, if I go to this queue page once, so queue again, what are queues? So these are just plain containers that can hold any number of values. So you can create a queue. Inside a queue, you can create a transaction item. Inside a transaction item, you can keep any type of value, any type of key value pair, any kind of a dictionary inside a dictionary or a list. You can keep everything inside that queue transactions. And as you can see there, this can store multiple types of data and it is in free format by default. But in the newer version of Orchestrator, you can also set a specific type of JSON as well. Means you can define a input schema as well as output schema as well as your analytical schema. So these are again high level things, but we'll for the happy flow, we'll just create a kind of a simple queue, and then I'll show you how you can actually retrieve the data from the queue and how you can actually set the transactions. But first, again, go back to the slide again. So there are a number of activities that we have within. Is that okay? So there are a number of activities that UiPath provides to add the data to the queue. Similarly, to retrieve the data from the queue, we have got different set of activities. So let me just go ahead and create a queue once. Again, queue is a kind of a folder-based entity. You will not see these queues under tenant option. Queue can be only managed within folder, right? Okay, let me just go to this queue button. So you can navigate to queue by clicking on this button as well. Okay, click on queue. Let me just, okay, create queue. Day 50, day 13 queue, sorry, day 13 queue. So at the moment, I am not selecting any kind of a specific JSON format for that. Auto retry, okay, let it be there one. And if you want to do any kind of a SLA predictions, we'll cover that in later as well. So you can also set it here as well. So I'm just clicking on this add button here. Now you can see here, this queue item has been created. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just adding a data to a queue and will tell you about how this transaction state would work inside the queue. Okay, go back to UiPath, delete everything here, add queue item. Okay, if I just select this queue, So these are 7, 8, or 9 activities provided by UiPath to work with queue items. Again, why do we need queues, and why do we need dispatcher and performer? This is a question that you generally being asked in the interview. So again, dispatcher is one that actually enters the data from a queue, and performer performs the data, fetches the data from that queue and performs the other type of automation. But why do we need that? In which scenario do we need this a kind of a dispatcher and a performer model? So let's suppose if you are working on a kind of a loan-based application, right? So you might get data from different vendors, and that vendors provides you a data in some kind of a Excel format, or in a plain PDF format, or a text format. So once you get all the data, you need to consolidate it. And once you consolidate all the data, what you need to do is you have got some kind of a Windows-based application or a web-based application, or a kind of a SAP or Salesforce application where you need to key in all the data. So first step, what you are going to do is you would create a dispatcher that fetches the data from these different sources and add the data to a queue. Then you can apply, or you can see you can create a performer and apply it to a multiple bot. So dispatcher can run only on one bot machine, whereas performer can run on multiple machines. So here you can do a kind of a shared load, or a data sharing, or a kind of a, what do you call that, scaling up of your RPA processes that you can do easily with the help of this queue-based mechanism. And let's suppose if you need to add one more bot, you can actually add it to this your what do you call that? Sorry, I forgot that. Under this shared options, and under this licensing option, machine options, then you can basically add that queue item and run this automation from there as well. So that's how you basically work on this dispatcher and performer model. Okay, so these 9-10 activities provided by UiPath to work on this queue item. Okay, so to add a queue item, the main activity that we need to use is add queue item. So there are 3 ways where you can add items to the queue. One is your add queue item. So add queue item will just add a single item to the queue. Similarly, if you read some kind of a data table and want to import everything to that queue, you can use this bulk add queue item activity. Similarly, there is one more activity called add transaction item. So with the help of this add transaction item, you can also add data to the queue. So let me just first take one activity and show you how this activity works. Okay, I've added this queue item. So once I added this, on the right side hand, means in the property section, you can see everything here. So continue error, these things are common, but I'll focusing on this input section only. So every queue has got some properties that are mandatory and some are not mandatory, but you can change it later in the process as well. So the mandatory part here is queue name. And the second part is your item information or the collection. So either you can write all the data in your item collections, or you can write it one by one. So what was the queue name? I guess it was day 13 queue. So let me just copy it and give it a queue name and add some information like name, Manoj, phone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So I've basically I've basically added one activity, add queue item, and added only 2 information here. One is your queue name, which is mandatory, which is your kind of key, and the other thing is your value, which is your item information. And item information contains 2 values. Similarly, you can also set deadline and postpone. We'll come back to these things later. So let me just run it. Okay. step into. My automation has started. Now it is adding one item to the queue. Now item has been added. If I go back to this queue again and refresh this thing, okay, go back to new transactions. Okay, you can see this one transaction here as well. The status is new, means it just got added to the queue. No other performer has processed anything to it. The priority is normal. We did not change anything there. Similarly, there is no deadline, no postpone. Started and ended would come when we actually started working on this queue. And if I click on this more action button, I can see this view details thing. If I click on this, you can see that the specific data that we entered to the queue, right? So the name was Manoj and phone number was that I got entered to this queue. Okay, so that's how you add a value to queue. So again, similarly for this that example, that home loan application or other application, your data could be huge. This Excel database where there are n number of columns, so you can add n number of these columns to this one queue item. So per row wise, you can add that. So you can see if your Excel file has got 100 rows, you can add 100 rows here as well. Okay, now the second thing is, once the data has been added to the queue, how you want to process it. Okay, so let me just disable it for now and click on this get transaction item and set the transaction status. So I'm just getting the value. Okay, what was the queue name again? Day 13 queue. There's the queue name. Okay, let me just type it here. And you can see here in the output, it will ask for this transaction item. So this is an out argument and the data type for this argument is queue item. So let me just create a variable here. Output data. So now my get transactions item is sorted now. Now I need to basically set the status of this transaction item. So before I do that, let me just use some write line activity. Okay, to fetch the data from the queue only. So get transaction item will fetch the data. The transaction item is output data. So output data, and the property that I need to use is specific content. And in the specific content, I need to write these key names. So let me just retrieve first name property. Name dot toString, and similarly the other one would be phone dot toString. Now I'm setting the transaction as successful. I just need to provide the variable that I created for this transaction. Okay, all sorted now. Let me just run it. Let me just do a step into. So at the moment, if I go back to Orchestrator again, you can see that the status is started now. Oh, sorry, new now. And if I do a step into and click on this click transaction item, now see here, the status has been changed to in progress. That means some robot has picked this transaction item from the queue. You can see here it got started a few seconds ago and the robot name my machine name. It has extracted the data. If I do a step into again, you can see name here on the left panel output window and phone number as well. Now I'm just setting the transaction status as successful. So let me just do a step into again. If I go back to Orchestrator, you can see that the transaction has been processed successfully. And view details, if I go to view details, you can see that there is no revision, no retry, nothing is there. So that's how you basically add and retrieve data from the queue. And the next activity that I'm going to cover is from the queues is this add transaction item. So this add transaction item is similar to add queue item. The only difference between these two activities is when you use add queue item, the status in the orchestrator for that transaction item would be set to new. Whereas if you add it via add transaction item, it will directly set the value or let's say transaction status in progress. So that means it needs to process the same item at that same time only. So once it gets added, the same item needs to be processed in that. Okay, let me just remove everything from here. What's the activity here? Okay, add queue item I can delete for now. Add transaction item. Okay, queue name. Again, I need to copy it. I'm very good in remembering names. You can see that. Okay, transaction information. I guess I created name, ABCD, and the other one was phone. Something like that. So now if I add this transaction item and the transaction item, I would set it to output data. Now, if I add this transaction item, the process would basically add a new queue item in progress state. So let me just do a step into again. So at the moment you can see here, there is only one queue item that is successful. Okay, going to UiPath again, click on add transaction item. Transaction has been added and started. If I do a refresh here, you can see that this is the difference. So if you use this add transaction item, you need to process it at the same time only, because you can see that this has been picked. It has started a few seconds ago. And if I don't, basically, if I stop the process, I'm just failing this queue item. If I just stop it here, not doing anything, the process will remain in this in progress status for the next 24 hours. After that, this status will be changed to abandoned. Okay. So as you can see here, we have got multiple statuses. One is new, when you actually add a new item to a queue. The second one is in progress. When the performer would take the data from the queue, it will set the transaction status as in progress. Then we have got failed. How you can set the status as failed and successful? You can use this get transaction activity to do that. If you basically set the business or application level exception here, you just need to provide the details, then it will actually mark this as faulted. So first failed, then you need to provide everything here as well. So that's how you can basically update the transaction status for a particular queue item. If you've basically found any error, if any error has encountered while running your automations. So that's how you can do that. Along with that, abundant, I've already explained you that if queue is unable to process and you did not actually handle the exception well in your code, then it will stay in progress status, and you will not able to change anything or delete. Nothing will happen. It will remain in this in progress state for next 24 hours. Similar to that, we have got two more items. One is your retried and deleted. So deleted means you have deleted item. Retried means in the event of any error or exception, you want to retry that queue item. So you remember when we created this queue, we set this retry thing here, auto retry. So this queue will go into retry if any application exception would occur. So that's how you can do this queue retry thing. And similarly, if you are working on a project where your performer is taking, let's suppose 5-10 minutes to do a transaction item, and you want to know the progress status of your queue item. So there is one more activity called set transaction process. So you can basically invoke this activity at the end of every save point to see where is your process currently running at the moment. So set transaction status means at the end of your queue gets processed, you set the status, but in the middle of your execution, if you want to give or notify the user, okay, this step has been done, we are at this step, you can also do that with the help of this set transaction progress statement. So let me just show you this diagram on how all these things work. So whenever you add a queue item, it will go to a new state. And if you add this transaction item, it will go to in progress state. After new, you need to add get transaction item to add that queue item to in progress state. If it remains in the in progress state for 24 hours, then the status would be set to abundant. Else, you can set the transaction status as successful or failed. So in case if there is any error in that and we have got this retry mechanism, this will again get added to the queue. Else, you can also, if I go back to the queue again, you can also assign this queue to some other person, and the person would review the queue item or changes the value, and you get the queue item will be reprocessed again. So that's how you can actually do all these things with the help of Orchestrator. So that's how this all queue automation would work. The next thing I'm going to cover is triggers. So now you have seen that we can run jobs in attended mode as well as via Orchestrator. But there is one more way where you can actually run your job in unattended mode. So that is by using triggers. So that is the sole purpose. Whether you are not available, you just want to run a process at 6 a.m. in the morning. So you just need to do a triggered execution here. So if I go back to Orchestrator again triggers are based on folder entity. So at the moment, I don't have any triggers enabled. So if I click on this, so this will show me a dashboard of how many triggers are there, something like that. I just need to click on this add a new trigger button. So when I click on add a new trigger button, this window would appear where it would ask for whether you want to go ahead or create a time-based trigger or a queue-based trigger. So let's suppose if I want to run it on a time-based trigger, so I just provide that, okay, time-based trigger 1. Now it will ask me to select a process. Okay, let's suppose I want to run this day 15 demo. Okay, inherited or high, low, medium priority. You can also set runtime. At the moment, it is only 1. But if you have got more than 1, then this window would give you all the machines as well, where you can actually set or check that machine name so that the automation can be run on that machine. Similarly, this is one thing. The other thing is because this is a time-based trigger, so you want to run it on a specific time. So you can set the time zone here. Along with that, you want to run the process every minute, every hour, daily, at what time, weekly, monthly. For advanced, you can write a cron expression as well. So you can schedule everything here as well. If you don't want to run it on a working day, so you remember I showed you this non-working day calendar setting. So this calendar would appear here, and you can set the settings here. So that I don't want to run it on a working day if it is a daily or weekly process. So if I click on add, this would create a time-based trigger. Similarly, for queue-based trigger, so this is a bit different, or you can say a better version of running processes. So for queue-based trigger, you just need to select again this name and everything name, process name, job priority, and other things. And the only difference here is you just need to select the queues. So whenever an item gets added to a queue, the performer, or you can the process would run automatically. So there is a difference. For time-based trigger, suppose if your dispatcher runs around 2 a.m. in the morning and you created a time-based trigger so that at 4 a.m. your performer would run and pick everything what is there in the queue. But you can see there's a 2 hours lag here. So first dispatcher would run, and we have basically keep a safe time for us to run a performer. But in a real life scenario, you want to initiate a process whenever the item or item gets added to the queue. So for that, you would use this queue based architecture. So you just need to select the queue. Okay, whenever this item in this queue item, any transaction item gets added in this queue, any transaction item gets added, just initiate a trigger and run the process. So that's how this queue-based trigger would work. Okay. Okay, trigger explained, queue explained. The next thing is related to libraries. So Orchestrator provide you a number of libraries that you can use within your process. Again, this is at your tenant level. So if you go to this, where is that packages? Okay. If you go to this libraries option, you can see an n number of libraries here, which you can use directly in your process. Similarly, if you want to create a new process or a new library, you can do that as well with the help of UiPath Studio. I'm not going to show you how you can create or upload a packages, but how you can do that is create this library, write your reusable component or code, and just deploy it. So it will come under this packages option here. And similarly, once this item gets added to this packages option, you can install the packages by using this manage package option. So this feed would appear here. So that's how you can basically use this library package. Again, the extension is .nupkg, like for other UiPath processes as well. And the next thing and the most important thing that we use in Orchestrator is alerts and monitoring, or you can say alerts, audit, and other things as well. So if you want to keep a track of things, who's doing what, so you can track everything with the help of this alerts and audit. And you also want to get you notified as well, you can also do that. So in Orchestrator, if I go to, where is that alerts option? Okay, it's again tenant level thing. If I go to alerts, you will see every alert here that I did on that machine. So if we have got multiple machine, you can also do that. There's a filter option as well. So everything you can also track. Similarly, this is also alert button on the top right menu. So you can see all the alerts as well. So this is one thing. This is just alerts. But if you want to see details at granular level, so you need to click on this audit thing. If I click on audit, you can see that Manoj Batra has created a queue item. I updated one asset name. I created asset. So if I go to this, not columns, if I go to this filters again, you can see every action related to this UiPath instance here. Whether I added any machine here or not, you can see that I added an ABCD machine 4 hours ago. So everything, every detail can be found here as well. So these are again related to your orchestrator level. But if you want to see details at job level, then you need to go to this automation and click on logs. So you can see all the logs here as well. Okay, the next thing is Q&A if we have got any. Rohit, over to you, sir.
Any questions, guys? Please. I think Sarita has a question.
Let me just open chat.
Yeah.
Okay, can we create our own libraries and use it by managed packages? Yes, you can do that. You just need to create a library here. Go to UiPath Studio, click on library, create a library, write your code in that workflow, publish the package, If it is not there, publish is not coming, you just need to change your orchestrator settings. Okay, publish is coming because I am admin user. So once you publish this, this library would appear here inside. Where is that library? Packages, sorry. Inside packages, libraries, you will see the package library here. And once the library gets added here, go to manage packages, and this would appear in this your orchestrator host field. So every package which is being deployed on your orchestrator, you can see these details here and just install it. That's how you do it. Okay. Next question is, can I create two asset values for two different robots under one asset? Two asset, yes, you can do that. Okay, for that, again, go back to assets. Again, asset is a folder level thing. Assets, add asset, type whatever name is there, contact details. Here you can set a global value. This is your global value. And if you want to add it for two different users, so at the moment I have got only one community license, unattended community license, so I can add only one. But if you have got more than one, so you will see all the options here for all the machine and username. So you can add all the values related to that robots here. Modern versus classic photo. This is a very deep topic. So, but at the moment we are doing a kind of a transitioning from moving from classic to modern folder. So everything that you have just seen, it's there in modern folder only. And I would also recommend you to go for modern folder as well, because classic folder, I guess these will be deleted soon. But I am not sure about the deadlines, timelines, but this will be deleted soon. Is it possible to have an IP for the on-prem orchestrator? Yes, you can do that, but you need to contact your internet provider, internet service provider. You need to contact ISP for that. That is doable because it will be deployed on orchestrator, and orchestrator with the help of orchestrator, you can generate one dynamic IP or a static IP, and this ISP would provide you that. Could you share the PDF materials? Sir, I'll share this slides with you. Perfect. What is the cron in time trigger? Okay, so cron is like if you want to run a job at a specific time, like at a particular day or particular time. So this cron uses this 7 expression. Okay, let me just open this site because I generally create cron on this cronexpression.com. Cron expression. Okay, you can use this website as well. So you just tell, so as per your requirement, client requirement, you want to run it every 5 minutes because orchestrator has got limited features. Like if I go back to this time trigger again, automations, triggers, you can see here, it can run minutes, hourly, monthly, daily. But if you want to run it on a specific date and time, you need to generate a cron expression. So these all are cron expressions. So you can take a reference from these websites. I generally copy or create a cron reference here and just copy it to this UiPath screen. Okay, next we have crons is not equals to regex. No, regex is a different thing. Regex is basically a kind of a, it's basically used to find a string within a string characters. So it's not related to that because cron accept is seven parameters. Star, star, star. So one is daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. I don't forget. I forget the other two things, but that's how this cron works. Is there any way to clear all the logs related to process? Again, that depends on your organization policy. In community, yes, I guess you can do that, but generally your COE basically they does these kind of housekeeping activities, and you can also set these organization policies in your organization as well. We can add bulk queue items from, yes, you can do that. There's a separate activity for that. Add bulk queue item. Just read the data from by using Excel applications for read range and add the data directly to that queue. That can be doable. How to give access to other user? Okay, I missed this part. Okay, let me just cover this as well. So inside folders, okay, inside this manage access, you can add new user, you can invite new user, you can do everything. You can create a new role, everything that you can do. And if you want to basically invite a user via Automation Hub, you need to go through this admin section and invite a user. It has robot account, what is it? Robot accounts. What is? Sorry, I did not get that this question, Felix. So robot account it was what that you set up or you create a robot, you give your machine domain name and username along with password. So these are your robot accounts. But I'm not able to get this question. Please make folder in drive for RPA. Sorry, what was that? Karunakar.
Karunakar, if you are looking for documentation for this session, that will be shared on the event page along with the recording. Yeah. Perfect. I think if that is the last question, we can close the session here. We are already 5 minutes over time. So participants, thank you so much for joining. I'm sure there are more questions that you have, so please do write on forum.uipath.com. You can also connect with Manoj on LinkedIn. I had already shared the link there. Please do register for tomorrow's session. It will be very important. And also I had shared the link to mark your attendance. Doesn't matter you have done it yesterday, you have to do it every day for the coming days. So please make sure that you do that. It will be open for next 6 minutes or so. So that is it. Have a great day, everyone. See you tomorrow. Thank you, Manoj, so much for your time. It was really good. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Good night.